Marc Dal Cin is the founder of Calibre Connect. He completed an interview with us on August 6, 2026. Let's learn Marc's entrepreneurial journey. We asked Marc what made him want to do the work he does. Marc answered, "Honestly, it started with my hands. I've always been the kind of person who needed to understand how things work, not just read about them, but actually get in there and figure it out. I got into the trade in my early 20s. There wasn't some big dramatic moment that pushed me toward it. It was more that I kept noticing how much people got taken advantage of when they didn't understand what was happening inside their walls. Tradies would show up, throw out a scary number, and leave homeowners with no real explanation. That always bothered me, so I started learning. I did my apprenticeship, put in the years on residential and commercial sites, and kept pushing to understand more of the system, not just the internal wiring side of things. That's eventually what led me to Level 2 accreditation, which lets me work directly on the network infrastructure, consumer mains, meter connections, underground supply, and the parts most electricians can't touch. I wanted to be someone who could handle the whole picture, not hand off the hard stuff to someone else. Calibre Connect came together in 2018. And I'll be real, the first couple of years were tough. Building a business while running jobs, managing compliance paperwork, quoting, sourcing materials. It's a lot. I made plenty of mistakes early on with systems and processes. But the thing that kept me going was pretty simple. I kept seeing the same problem on every job. Homeowners had no idea what they were actually getting. No fixed price up front, no documentation after the fact, and no one standing behind the work. So we built the business around fixing exactly that. Fixed quotes before we start, a certificate of compliance on every job that needs one, and a lifetime workmanship warranty because accountability shouldn't be optional. Next, we asked Marc to share 3 things that were surprisingly easy and 3 that were surprisingly difficult about running his business. He said, "People always assume running a trade business is either all hard or all easy. The reality surprised me on both sides. Building a reputation came faster than I expected. Sydney homeowners are so used to tradies not showing up or explaining anything that just doing the basics properly made us stand out. Turn up on time, explain the job, and leave the place clean. People remember that. Getting Level 2 work was steadier than I thought too. Most electricians can't touch network side repairs, so when a point of attachment fails or the consumer mains are down, the pool of people who can actually fix it is small. That works in our favor. Word of mouth basically ran itself. Strata managers, real estate agents, and designers we'd worked with on lighting jobs all sent people our way without us asking. The difficult parts came later. Pricing is harder than it sounds because some clients are conditioned to expect a lowball quote that grows later. Teaching people to compare what's actually included instead of just looking at the price takes real effort. Compliance paperwork genuinely caught me off guard. Every certificate of compliance and every documented test result meant building systems so that paperwork didn't swallow the entire day. And then there's the emotional weight of the work. When you walk into someone's home after a near miss, you have to be calm and competent every single time. That responsibility adds up. Then we asked Marc what he enjoys most about his work. He replied, "The first is solving problems that aren't obvious. Electrical fault finding is genuinely satisfying because you're dealing with something invisible, and the symptom you can see is almost never the real cause. Tracing it back feels like detective work. The second is the moment a client actually understands what was wrong with their home. Not just that we fixed it, but why it mattered and what it means for their safety going forward. Seeing that relief never gets old. The third is the variety. Some weeks we're upgrading switchboards, installing EV chargers, and doing Level 2 network work that most electricians never touch. The range keeps the work interesting and keeps me learning." Next, we asked Marc what he needs in his work to achieve a sense of purpose. He answered, "The first thing is accountability. I need to be able to stand behind what I do. That's why every job comes with compliance paperwork and a lifetime workmanship warranty. It's not a marketing line, it's a commitment." The second is seeing a real outcome. I like work where something unsafe becomes safe, or where a problem is genuinely solved. The third is growth. I went from residential wiring to Level 2 accreditation because I wanted to understand the whole system. For me, purpose disappears when there's nothing left to learn. Then we asked Marc to tell us about a surprising outcome he never expected. He said, "One job still comes to mind. We were called to an older home where the owners had been dealing with flickering lights and random circuit trips for months. 2 electricians had already inspected it and couldn't find anything. We traced the circuit properly and eventually found a concealed junction hidden inside a wall cavity that had been incorrectly terminated decades earlier. It only failed under certain electrical loads, which is why it kept getting missed. When we opened the wall and showed the homeowner what we found, he went quiet. His family had lived there for 11 years and had always assumed the flickering was just part of living in an old house. The faulty connection was sitting only about 30 centimeters from the main bedroom wall. I expected relief. Instead, I saw genuine shock. That job completely changed how I talk to clients about intermittent faults. I never let anyone dismiss them anymore because the hidden faults are often the ones that matter most." Next, we asked Marc how he gets himself out of a funk. He replied, "Honestly, I go looking for a small win. Early on, I thought I needed a big planning session whenever I felt stuck. That never helped. Now I simply find one thing I can finish that day. It might be sending a quote, completing compliance paperwork, or crossing something small off the list. I've learned that a funk usually isn't about energy, it's about momentum. Completing one meaningful task breaks that feeling surprisingly fast. That mindset comes from working on job sites. When something goes wrong, you don't fix the whole day at once, you simply take the next right step." We also asked Marc what he values most. He answered, "Doing what you said you'd do. That means showing up when you promised, charging what you quoted, and leaving every job better than you found it." Over time, I realized trust compounds. When people know your word means something, your reputation takes care of itself. No marketing campaign can replace that. Then we asked Marc what achievement he's proudest of. He said, "Building a business where the paperwork matches the work. From day one, I committed to proper compliance documentation, fixed price quotes, and standing behind every job with a lifetime workmanship warranty. The trade has struggled with undocumented work for years. I wanted Calibre Connect to be the opposite of that. We've grown across Greater Sydney, but the standard hasn't changed. That consistency is what I'm proudest of." Next, we asked Marc about his favorite movie. He answered, "Gladiator, no hesitation. I've watched it more times than I can count. What inspires me is that Maximus never loses sight of who he is, even after losing almost everything. He just keeps moving forward. I also love the world Ridley Scott created, but it always comes back to the character. There's something about maintaining your dignity under pressure that I find incredibly compelling." Then we asked Marc what advice he would give himself if he could go back 2 years. He replied, "Stop trying to carry everything yourself. I became the bottleneck for quoting, compliance, scheduling, and client follow-ups because I thought I was protecting the standard. Eventually, I realized that building better systems protects the standard far better than trying to personally control every decision. I also wish I had invested in administrative systems earlier. Better compliance tracking, job management, and client communication would have saved months of unnecessary friction. In short, work on the business instead of spending all your time working in it." Next, we asked Marc who has been the biggest mentor in his life. He answered, "My first boss in the trade. He taught me something I'll never forget. The work hidden inside the wall should be just as clean as the work the client can actually see. Nobody might ever open that wall again, but you know what's behind it, and that should be enough." That standard shaped how I run Calibre Connect today. The standard never changes just because the day became more difficult. Finally, we asked Marc one question just for fun. "What's your favorite dessert?" Marc answered, "Tiramisu. I'll stand by that all day. There's something about the combination of coffee, mascarpone, and soaked sponge that just works. When it's homemade and served properly cold, nothing else comes close."